See Me, See My Ability, a podcast of the ARC Southern Chesapeake. I'm the producer and the host, Rita Rich. On our last episode, we talked with one of the first members of one of the ARCs that would become the ARC Southern Chesapeake, Sarah Escowitz. We continue our discussion by exploring how Sarah and her husband Ed were a team that pushed the ARC of Calvert County forward.
He was the president of the ARC, and he is the one who hired our first staff people, including we called him a program director, and later, once we developed programs, he became the first CEO. So that's the way that story goes.
Talk to me about your husband. It's Ed, right?
Ed, yes. Ed was a wonderful person. He was a Long Islander. He was big, he was strong, he was funny, he was entertaining. He had so much personality, and he was a force of nature. There was no question that he was the one of the two of us who would be absolutely the right person to be president of the ARC. This was after the Mary Eldridge, who founded the ARC in Calvert County, moved out of state. So, okay, what are we going to do? We need to continue. We need to do so many things. So Ed agreed, as long as it didn't take too much time and it was only in the evenings after work. So, okay, we did that. So he was the president of the ARC, and meanwhile, I was doing all of the advocacy for education, for against the institution, for parent support, for respite care, for recreation for disabilities. So I was the advocate, and he was the president, and we played complementary roles throughout our whole lives together. And it was wonderful. You know, when you can't do something, but there's someone right there, has the right mindset, has the right abilities, and you say, go for it. And they do. We did that back and forth. I thought of us as a tag team. Either it was in my bailiwick or it was in his. And when he was successful, it energized me. When I was successful, it energized him. And it just worked so well.
Yeah, I'm trying. How long has he been gone?
13 years now. 13 years.
I understand.
I haven't thought about these years in so long. But going back and talking about them, it's talking about the wonderful, wonderful years where Ed was at his finest. And I was having a pretty interesting life also. And Bill was still this adorable little guy, And it continued for a good number of years. And I have always appreciated that we had that many years together.
Well, all that energy and fire in your bellies. And you were able to accomplish a lot of your goals. Well, you were around when they started special education classes in elementary schools and high schools in Maryland? Or where were you?
Yes, that was very, very, very critical. The special education had started, but it had not yet reached Calvert County. There was special education, but not for all levels of disability. It's like Public Law 94-142. The state was moving towards it, but it didn't extend to the full extent. So as a preschooler, Bill had to go to Charles County to a developmental center. This was before early intervention. So I would drive him 33 miles to La Plata and drive him back. Eventually, the Board of Education drove him back, which was wonderful. And then when he became school-aged, I had been advocating for fully funded special education in Calvert County, knowing that Bill would be coming back to Calvert County for his education. And I would look at his IEP and say, it says he needs this. Okay, Calvert County Board of Ed, do you have this in place. Well, not quite. Well, then I guess we're going to have to do another year in La Plata at the Springdale Center. And he had wonderful preparation there. Those were 3 excellent formative years. And when he did come back to Calvert County, special education was definitely better, still needed a lot of tweaking. And every year we were in Calvert County, I had issues with education. That never goes away. One's education is different in each class each year. So I was extremely involved with educational issues. That had started being my primary focus. And it continued throughout. I moved on to other areas of need, but education was always a critical part of what I did, and helping families understand the powers that an IEP would give them. We had IEP workshops to teach parents how they could participate in meeting and where they could have an effect, and how to frame their issues, making it more effective for them, less confrontational, less scary, because schools are not usually very good at taking parents' suggestions at things. But the IEP was one way families could have a significant role. So we were very busy.
Talk to teachers today, they would love to have more parents involved in reinforcing what the child is supposed to be learning in the classroom. But what really got me, and in Anne Arundel County now says that the teachers, pre-K and others, have to fill in the blanks when it comes to teaching kids how to use the bathroom and do things like that, because the parents are just not doing their job. And so now, it's just such a seesaw.
And that is because every family needs so many breadwinners. And what is the quality of your childcare? If you have any childcare, is it a neighbor? Is it a grandparent who really can't do much except feed the child? There are so many aspects of life that impinge on education, on families, and families are so stressed with life now. Yeah, disability isn't the only area of need in our society.
Yeah. Human rights are human rights, and human needs are human needs, whether you physically have a challenge or you develop mentally if there's a challenge. So after you left Maryland, talk about what happened after you left Maryland, and and whether you stayed in touch with a lot of the people back here in Maryland.
We left Maryland because my husband's job moved to Mississippi. We would never go to Mississippi with a child with disabilities. Therefore, he got a job in Northern Virginia. So we moved from the country to the suburbs. And Bill was enrolled in a special education center that had all the bells and whistles that we could ever ask for. We did find that you still needed to be very sharp at an IEP meeting, and that we still had differences with staff, and that is absolutely normal. My husband, Ed, was, at that time, he was the president of Western Chesapeake Properties, which owned the barrier-free homes. So he was still in direct contact with the ARC. And I was a member of the Northern Virginia ARC, working on both education and residential issues. We both continued with disability-related issues, and Bill thrived, and his brother thrived. I believe after Western Chesapeake Properties, I think that was the last that we stayed in touch with the ARC, although there were a couple of years where it was sweet, where they invited us down to a meeting because the ARC had established a volunteer award in Ed's and my name. And so we would go for that meeting and meet. The county commissioners would be there, and the board of directors would be there, and members would be there, and the clients. And that was always fun. That was always fun.
It's nice to be loved.
Oh, yes, indeed. I'm always surprised by how many people were there. Wait a second. That's for us. How did that happen?
You thought you were just being a troublemaker.
Oh, yes, that I knew. I knew I was being a troublemaker. And Ed was born being a troublemaker. He loved it. He loved it.
See Me, See My Ability is a podcast of the ARC Southern Chesapeake, now serving Anne Arundel as well as Calvert, Charles, and St. Mary's counties. The podcast can be found wherever you download podcasts on your mobile device or computers. Please subscribe, leave us a review, and follow. I'm Rita Rich.